Morning you guys, it's Karen and I have got a potential dupe for you. I'm not sure if I'm going to call this video dupe or like a versus, you know, Urban Decay Naked versus Max Factor palettes, because it's Max Factor that is the dupe. They've just brought out these two palettes. Now just got my hair stuck in one of them. I haven't seen these in Boots, that's where I got them, and I'm always looking for new stuff, but I'm guessing they're only in the really big stores. I have got quite a big store near me. I don't know why I didn't see them, because I asked the lady when did they come out and she said they came out last November, which really shocked me because, like I said, I've never seen them. But anyway, they are new to me. There is, I think, 4 palettes from Max Factor, and I believe that they are trying to dupe the Naked palettes. Now, I did have Urban Decay Naked 1 and 2. I've sold 1 and 2 because I just didn't use them, and the one I kept was 3, and I absolutely adore this palette. It looks like that. So I was able to compare it with Naked 3, and I was only able to compare it, the one that I think is Naked 2, kind of in my mind, if you like, because obviously I don't have the palette. And I believe that the 4th palette looks a little bit like the Naked Smoky one. So like I said, I do think that they are trying to imitate the Naked palettes. And this one that I used today is the one that I think imitates Naked 3, and I think it did a really good job. That's what I've got on my eyes, and this is a look that I would use the Naked 3 palette for, so I thought I'll just recreate it and use the similar colours and see how we get on. Yesterday I used the one that I think mimics the Naked 2 palette, so let's see if these have got names on them. Masterpiece Nude Palette, Cappuccino Nudes, this one. This one is called Rose Nudes. So the Cappuccino Nudes, I believe this is a dupe of the Naked 2 palette. Then let's have a look online, actually, see if I can find you the names of the other two. Have a look at Superdrug, Boots and Max Factor. Max Factor are not listing the eyeshadows at all, which is really bizarre, but I can only actually find 3 palettes, so I wonder if I was getting confused and there wasn't a 4th palette, because I went to Boots, then I went to Superdrug. Anyway, the one that matches the Naked 1 palette is called Golden Nudes. This one is Cappuccino Nudes for number 2, and the one that matches Naked 3 is Rose Nudes. So I'll list that below for you though, just in case you couldn't remember which one was which and there's a specific Naked palette you want. So what I'll do, I'm not going to swatch every single colour, but what I'll do is swatch the ones that are similar and tell you which ones I used for the look. This is them together. Let's show you like that so that you can see them, because obviously there's less shadows in the Max Factor one. Okay, so I've put some swatches on my hand. Now let me make sure I've got this the right way. The top one for you is the Urban Decay Naked 3, and that is 4 of the colours that are very similar, so hopefully you can see how similar those colours are. And like I said, there's less colours in the Max Factor. There is 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 in the Urban Decay, and there is 3, 6, 8 in the Max Factor. There's 4 less shadows, but the ones they have, I think about, let's see, 6 of them are dupes of the colour in the Naked 3. So there's 2 colours that are not really, I think they might have been trying to dupe. Actually, maybe that one. Yeah, actually no, it's only just one colour that is not a specific dupe. So let me go along. The first one is Black Heart. So that one is Black Heart there from the Naked 3, and that is the corresponding colour from Max Factor. Let's see what the difference is. The difference is ever so slightly that the sparkles in the Black Heart one are perhaps more red. Let's do a finger swatch. That's Black Heart from the Naked 3, and this is the Max Factor one. Maybe you can see any more difference there. It might be useful to do a finger swatch for you and wait till it focuses, because I know that it hasn't focused in the past. I'm working on that issue. But you can see how similar they are. Looking at them on my finger there, the one from the Naked looks a little bit more purpley, and this one looks a little bit browny. Do you see? It just is not, it's not quite as black as this one. This one is definitely a black and purple. This one looks like a very, very dark brown. But actually swatched, they look very, very identical. They look identical, not very, very anything. They just look identical. The next colour along is the next colour along in the Naked 3, and it's called Dark Side. It's that one there. So I'll do a finger swatch of that as well. And it is the next one along in the Max Factor one, and you can see that they are pretty similar as well. Let's have a look. The only difference I'd say in those, looking at it, is that this one, the Naked 3 one, looks a little bit more grey. This one looks a little bit more, not taupe, but you know, it's got that sort of grey brown, whereas this one looks a little bit more grey. But again, swatched, you can see there's barely any difference. So let me swatch on top of it. So this one was the Naked 3 and this one was the Max Factor one. So that's them swatched just there. That's Dark Side and the one from the Max Factor palette. The next one along in the Naked, in fact the next the next three in the Naked are not duped in this palette. So these are the ones that are missing. It is Liar, Factory and Mugshot. But there is Eyeshadow, the third one along on here, that kind of looks like a mixture of all three, and these three are not too dissimilar. Is it 3 or 2? Yeah, 3. Those are the 3 colours in the Naked that are not duped. And then this third colour along in the Max Factor one is not, you can see that it's not like any of these colours really. It's a bit too dark and it doesn't dupe anything in this palette. So that's the only kind of odd one out. So that's the Max Factor one and the other 3 are from the Naked. These sorts of videos are really difficult to do, but hopefully it will be useful and it's not too bitty. So I've talked about these 3. The first one was a dupe of Black Heart, that one was a dupe of Dark Side, that one wasn't a dupe of anything. And then the 4th colour along here is a dupe of the colour called Nude in here. So remember we went Black Heart, Dark Side, those 3 there's not a dupe. But then you've got Nude, which I think is a very popular colour in the Naked 3, and I'll do a finger swatch of each. And that's what I've got. That's the next colour I've got in my hand. So that's the finger swatches, and you can see there, actually these ones swatched look very different. Actually in this one, I was trying to look at which one was which there. So the first one, this one is Naked 3, this one, and this one is the Max Factor one. And I think the Max Factor one actually looks a little bit pinker. This one looks a little bit pinker to me. Only slightly. Now on here, the top one is the Naked 3, and then that one down there is the Max Factor one. So let me swatch the Max Factor one over the top, because it doesn't look as pigmented. That's the other thing I've noticed. Does it actually? Now it does. Now I've swatched it again. Now it does. So the top one is the Naked 3 and the bottom one is the Max Factor. And I think you should be able to see that on screen. That is definitely more purpley pink than the one in the Naked 3, which surprises me actually, but I actually prefer the colour in the Max Factor one, and that is the one that I've got on in my crease. I should have said as I was going along actually. Black Heart I've already swatched for you. I've gone from the opposite end of the palette, but I have got the dupe of Black Heart in my outer corner, and then like I said, I've got the dupe of Nude in my crease, and I think I prefer the one from the Max Factor just because it's more purpley. Okay, then the next colour along on here is the colour that is swatched here, and that is it the next colour along here? Yes, it's Trick, which is another popular colour in here, and one of my favourite is this colour here. So now this is interesting because it's quite hard to get a swatch of Trick. I have got a little bit of hard pan on that one, but this one is much easier, but not, I don't think quite as pretty. So again, you've got, this is the Naked 3 and this one is the Max Factor one. And I think with this, let's see if I can see it on there. Yeah, the Naked has just got a little bit more of a shine to it somehow, and is a little bit more, the Max Factor one is a little bit more, I don't want to say glittery because it's not, it's very, very fine glitter, but it's more shimmery than shiny, if you know what I mean. Let's see if you can see that on here. So the top one is Naked 3 Trick and the bottom one is the Max Factor one. I hope that that is focusing enough. And now let me go over these. So this one is the top one, that's Naked, and that one is Max Factor. So yeah, I think that you should be able to see that. I just think the top one's a prettier colour, so for that one, for me, the Naked palette wins. But it's not that much of a difference, and that's the one that I have got over my eyelid as the main colour, because I do use Trick a lot. I love that colour, really love that combination of Trick, Nude and Black Heart from the Naked 3 palette. Okay, so we were up to Trick in this one. Starting at this end, we've got to Trick. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colours left in here, and the 2 that they are not duped in the Max Factor one are these 2 here. So there is Buzz and Burnout. And it's funny because I rarely see that these talked about in tutorials, and I myself rarely use them. And it's not that they're horrible colours, because they're not, they're nice. They're just not the best ones out of the palette. Those are the two colours there. And they're nice, but I don't feel like they're standout colours. And these are the two that are not duped. So I feel like the people that were making the Max Factor palette did a great job of looking at the Naked 3 and picking the best shadows, and they've put them into their palette, I feel like. So the other three in this palette are duped. So we are on to Limit, and Limit is a matte colour. It's another one that is very, very popular. Limit and Nuna are the two matte colours. Are they the only two? No, Limit, Nuna and Strange. But Limit and Nuna are the two kind of crease colours. One's the darker purple and one's the lighter purple. So this one here is a dupe of Limit. And actually, I'm saying dupe, it's a lot lighter. So unfortunately, I've done it the opposite way, which might confuse you. But this one is Limit, and this one on the top is the Max Factor one. So you can see it's a lot lighter. I'll do the finger swatches for you. So Limit on my right finger, Max Factor, no. So Limit and Max Factor. So you can see there, definitely, it's a lot lighter. It's a lot lighter. But again, I really like that colour. I think it's lovely. It's very powdery, as you can see. But I'll talk about that in a moment. But definitely a great alternative to using Limit. You know, you'll still get the same kind of look. So next along here is Burnout, and then you've got Dust, which Dust is one of those colours that actually I remember when people were talking about this Naked 3 palette, that a lot of people hated the colour Dust because, as its name suggests, it's very dusty and it's very difficult to use. It's not an easy shadow to use, but it is a beautiful shadow if you take the time to use it. Now let me make sure I've got these in the right way. So on here, this one is Dust from the Naked 3, and this one is the Max Factor one. So although they didn't look that similar swatched, I think they look quite different, didn't they? Did I even show you them swatched? I think I did. Let me do it again just in case. I think the Dust one from the Naked 3, which is this one, looks a little bit pinker, doesn't it? But you can see that it actually looks a little bit less pulled together, and this one is easier to use, and I think it looks just as pretty as a colour. So the bottom one is the Max Factor one. Is it? It's so hard because I'm putting my hand upside down for you guys. So when I'm saying, right, that one is Dust, so it's the bottom to you. That one is Dust from the Naked 3 palette. That one at the top is the Max Factor one. And I think it's just as pretty a colour and actually easier to work with. Because I did use this palette the day before yesterday as well. I haven't just done the one look with it. And then the final colour is the beautiful colour called Strange, which is just, it is a matte, but it's a very sort of silky feeling shadow. I really like this one. And then in the Max Factor, it's almost identical feeling and looking. See how it looks on the hand. Yeah, I think it looks pretty much the same. Love this colour. If anything, I would say the Max Factor one I prefer because it's a little bit more pigmented. So what did I say? The bottom was the Naked 3. So that's Strange there, and that's the Max Factor dupe for it. And that's them on my fingers. That is... I can't remember which one, honestly. I can't remember which one I showed you a moment ago, but you can see how similar they are. Let me swatch them together on there. Okay, that one is the Max Factor one. I think the Max Factor one is ever so slightly lighter, actually. You know, just a little bit brighter, and I like that. That wasn't very good. I'm not very good with swatches, and especially in comparisons, because I've still not figured out what's the best way to do this so that you can see them together, and my hand's not very steady, and like I said, I'm still having autofocus problems, but hopefully that gave you an idea. I also apologise for my terrible chipped nails. They are on my list to do today. So let's talk about how they compare as a palette. The Naked 3 is £38 at the moment in Debenhams. The Max Factor one in Boots is currently £14.99. I have to say that I think £14.99 is too much for this palette, because you've got the likes of the L'Oreal, is it L'Oreal? The L'Oreal, no, I'm thinking of La Palette Nude, which that might have been £14.99. I was thinking of the Blush Nudes, it's Maybelline, isn't it? Maybelline the Blush Nudes, which was a pretty good palette and had a lot more eyeshadows in, and it was £9.99. I feel like £9.99 would have been a really good price for it. I think this would have been better at like £10 or £11.99 personally. I think that would have been a pretty good price for it. I think £14.99 is just a little bit too much for a drugstore eye palette that's got 8 shadows in it. That said, they are very, very lovely eyeshadows and they're a very good dupe. The ones that they have duped, I can't find any differences with. Like, I've used them on my eyes this morning. They blend out exactly the same way. They're as pigmented as the Naked 3 ones. You know, they're as pleasant to use as the Naked 3 ones, and some of them I prefer. So I prefer, what did I say I prefer in here? This one, definitely. I prefer the matte one, which is Strange. I prefer the one that instead of Dust, I prefer Limit, which is a bit lighter pink. I prefer the Trick colour. Actually, is there any I don't prefer? I think I like the extra colours in the Naked 3, so I'm not going to give my Naked 3 palette away, but I actually, most of the colours, thinking about it, I prefer in here. They're just, like, Dust one, definitely easier to use. Trick one is a little bit less hard to get a colour on because the trick in my Naked 3 is getting that kind of hard pan on it. It may be just because this is new. The downside, however, is these do kick up a lot. So you could see there where I was swatching them, I was constantly having to blow away the colour, and I shouldn't really have done that because I did that, and I've noticed all around me, like all over my mouse mat here, I've got eyeshadow dust. And so these could be quite messy, and I found this morning I definitely had a lot of fallout under my eye. I guess that is just the price that you pay for paying less for a really good eyeshadow, if you know what I mean, and that doesn't bother me at all. The other slight thing I noticed is I was saying that they blend out the same, but by that I have found the black heart colour in Naked 3, when I put it on my outer corner, that I need to not blend it too much because I sometimes blend it away, and especially if you want the true to colour look from that, because it is a really unique colour. And I found the same with this, not so much with the crease colour, but when I put that black heart colour on the outer corner, I blended too much and blended it away and had to put more on, I think you do need a base underneath, and you need to be careful you don't blend too much, which is not usually the advice, is it? It's normally the other way, you don't blend enough. I can't think of any other differences between the two. Like I said, this one is half the price of the Urban Decay one, but if you have always wanted the Naked 3 and can't afford it or wouldn't want to spend £38 on a palette, this will give you all of the looks that you could get for that pretty much, because you could mix and match the colours to make those 3 missing. So just to remind you, the ones that you don't get in that palette are Burnout and Buzz, those 2 kind of pinky colours, and then these 3 colours here. So not that black one, not the grey one, but the 3 kind of taupey colours there with my 3 nails on it. You don't get those, but you do get an extra colour in there, which is kind of like a darker mix of those 3 there. So I feel like you could get the same look from the Max Factor palette. There are definitely other palettes that are similar to the Naked 3. I know that I was considering showing you the Maybelline Blush Nudes palette as a dupe for the Naked 3, because it's also looks to be like it was mimicking that, but I think that one's actually got more colours in, but it's not got as many that are similar. I would say there's maybe 50% of that is a dupe of Naked 3, and I didn't find the eyeshadows in the Blush Nudes to be that great to blend. I found that they were difficult to blend. They're not quite as powdery as the Max Factor ones, but they were, I didn't like the look. The resulting look wasn't as good, and I feel like that's down to the eyeshadow, you know, especially if you're not, well, I know I'm not a beginner, but I consider myself a beginner because I've not been doing eyeshadow for years. I've been doing it for a couple of years, you know, and I'm still getting used to the whole blending and having patience, etc. And I feel like the Max Factor ones were just much easier and the looks came out better. And I also used the one for the Naked 2 a couple of days ago, and I enjoyed that one as well, although I didn't love the look as much as with the Rose Nudes, but that's just my colour choice. I don't know whether Makeup Revolution have got, is it Makeup Revolution? Somebody is doing a dupe of like the Lorac Pro palettes that is very, very good, I know. So I don't know whether they've got any dupes out of the Urban Decay palettes. I would buy them if I saw them in the store, and I do normally look at the Makeup Revolution palettes and I didn't see anything, but that doesn't mean there isn't anything, you know, and they would be cheaper than the Max Factor ones, but I didn't see it in store, so I'm not somebody that would order that online necessarily. Anyway, I hope that was useful to you. Apologies to those in the USA that can't get it, because I know apparently you used to have Max Factor, but you don't anymore. CoverGirl is Max Factor's sister, I believe, so under the same company, so maybe CoverGirl will bring out something similar. I'll tell you what's on the rest of my face. So obviously I've got that palette on my eyes. I've got my Marc Jacobs Outspoken blush on, My foundation is, it is L'Oreal True Match in 3N. I've used a little bit of a darker colour, so it'll be interesting to see when I watch it back what kind of match, because I did put my self-tan on last night and I'm trying to better match my face and neck. So L'Oreal True Match in 3N. On my lips is the Stila liquid lipstick in Baci. I just love this lipstick. It's really, really pretty. And I have to go and change. I left details of what I was wearing and I thought this one was called Bellissima and it's on one of my recent videos, but it's not. It's called Baci. I just checked it this morning. So that's everything. Thank you so much for watching and I'll speak to you.